Hey everybody, this is Jeff Newton coming at you from the writer's cabin on April 24th. You guys like that date, don't you? You love me sitting the date in there. Anyways, this is going to be kind of a lightning round. I took a day yesterday to do a live with a friend of mine because I thought we needed a comedy break, and he's a good storyteller, and we jive together pretty well when we're telling stories together. I talked about Hunter S. Thompson and, art and, Banksy and fun, cool stuff. But, I wake up this morning and the world's still on fire. So I wanted to do a little bit of lightning round. I figured I can usually do like one story a day. But the fact is that so much crazy shit has been going on the last few days that I want to just reflect on a few of those things. I'll try to get by it as quickly as possible. Let's talk about Iran first, okay? No deal on Iran, obviously, at this point still. Discussions about peace talks. There is thought that Iran is sending representatives to peace talks in Pakistan, but, they haven't agreed to anything. And, the Revolutionary Guard in the last day or so has remined the Strait of Hormuz. Now, we haven't gotten rid of the previous mines, the Strait of Hormuz. They put these mines in there that are underwater and you can't see them. And they apparently have, it's almost like a moving chessboard. They have GPS on them and they can actually move them throughout the strait. So it's harder to find and harder to get rid of. But we're not even in a position where we can travel through there freely. So, it's going to be a long time before we get to those mines in the first place, which obviously creates problems for traveling through the Strait of Hormuz. The only place that they apparently can travel through is the Iranian side, because the Iranians apparently didn't mind their side of it. And we're not letting them through because of the blockade. So that's still there. But it's funny because, they put in a second layer of mines. Remember, this is the Navy that Pete Hegseth said doesn't exist anymore because we annihilated them. Well, apparently, they shot on vessels in the last few days and took over some vessels that they declared weren't supposed to be going through there without permission, paying their tolls, whatever. And then now this non-existent Navy has mined the Strait of Hormuz again. Pete, get your story straight, bro. Oh, man. So Trump, to his credit, he said, hey, he went on Truth Social. This is always the best place to command your military. Let them know what your orders are. Go on Truth Social. And he said he's ordered the Navy to shoot and kill any Iranian boats laying mines with no hesitation. Where are these Iranian boats coming from now? That we did we kill them all? Or was it me that was saying they have thousands of these little drone boats and these swarm boats that they go in? Don't listen to me. Listen to Donald. They got rid of all the Navy until they didn't get rid of the Navy, did they? Because they just laid mines. That ought to help the price of oil. Yeah. So that's something to think about. This is the lightning round. Pentagon told Congress it would take 6 months to fully clear the Strait of Hormuz of any such mines. And that was before they laid more today. That sounds great. Just in response, so far today, oil is up this week. It's up 14% on the week. And it closed out today at $107 for Brent crude on the price of a barrel of oil. So this is going to be fantastic for your all's gas and oil prices. Anyways, the Iranian foreign minister is expected in Islamabad for discussions on all this. I imagine they'll continue with the line that I've always said that they would continue with, which is fuck you, until Trump starts deciding, he doesn't want to play anymore. And we're starting to see some evidence of that. We had the Washington Post, this columnist, Mark Thiessen, who's a conservative columnist, wrote this piece. And here's what he suggests. Iran needs a deal more than Trump does because the country is being hammered militarily and economically. Well, what the fuck do they think's happened to us? Are we not being hammered militarily and economically? They destroyed a bunch of our bases over there and people are living in hotels. There's reports that ships out there are having problems getting resupplied. Okay, they must need this more than they sure aren't acting like they need a peace deal more than we do, are they? They're basically laying more mines. Yeah. And that would, he says, declaring victory, meaning the president can wait. He can wait and just declare victory without a deal. That is a long way. Remember when Trump said he'd accept nothing less but unconditional surrender? So why are we even having the peace talks if all he wants is an unconditional surrender? You keep saying a deal can be made, but that's not an unconditional surrender. It sounds like a conditional peace deal where both sides have to make concessions. That's not what he promised us. Whew, he flip-flops a lot. Anyways, he said declaring victory without a deal and give the Iranian people the green light to drive the weakened regime from power. Oh, that's a great idea. The U.S. military can't keep one waterway open with the largest military in the world. The largest military in the world can't keep the waterway open, but he wants unarmed people to go topple the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. This guy is writing for the Washington Post. Why are we all not writing for the Washington Post with columnists out there with this such wisdom? Such wisdom. Trump then shared a screen grab of it on X. A message, Thiessen suggested killing Iranian officials opposed to a deal with the U.S., an argument outlined in his article. I mean, that's what I call some first-rate diplomacy, don't you? Go to Pakistan, try to get a deal, and if they don't agree to a deal while you're there, just kill them. Kill them all. It's just, eventually we'll find somebody that'll want a deal, right? You don't want them to do that to us, though, do you? Inside our own country with terrorism cells. But don't worry about that either. Mark Wayne Mullen, the plumber from Oklahoma, he's got all that shit handled. He's got that just ask him anytime. He'll talk to you about his military background that he never had and what it's like fighting to the death that he's never had to do. But he's got our back, so don't worry about it. And they wouldn't even be able to get here. I mean, their Navy can't even get here, right? Pete Hegseth, they don't exist anymore. They can't take those little boats here. Okay, Trump, let's see. If the Iranian regime is really fractured between a faction that wants a deal and a faction that does not, there's a simple solution. Kill the faction that does not. This guy, he might be Secretary of State with this kind of attitude. He's certainly not, Marco Rubio, he's not talking like this. He's just showing up drunk at UFC fights, a couple weeks ago. He's not talking mean game. This Thiessen guy looks like and the funny part is Trump is like hitting like button on all this stuff. So what that means is that he really does want the fuck out of this. And he's open to all sorts of possibilities that'll make him look okay before the elections. That's why he's hitting the like button. I don't have to declare victory. I can declare victory. I don't have to have a deal in place. That's where he's going. Watch him. He's going to take almost anything. And he won't care what the price of oil is when he closes this whole thing down. In the end, I don't think he'll care if Iran charges tariffs for the oil to go through there. He's getting crushed right now, and he's about to lose the House and the Senate. Okay. What's the new one here? Oh, DHS, our favorite organization, Department of Homeland Security. Another shout out to Mark Wayne Mullen. Remember Mark Wayne Mullen, the former senator from Oklahoma, who's now been confirmed as Secretary of DHS. This guy. Well, they apparently have a new strategy over there. NBC's reporting. NBC, I love NBC News. They're one of the few who hasn't taken a massive out-of-court settlement with the Trump administration yet. There are signals, though, that they're softening, but nonetheless, they're reporting that DHS is rolling back some of its most controversial immigration enforcement policies, according to 2 senior DHS officials and 2 immigration attorneys who've seen the changes firsthand. Okay, I'd be more inclined to see the immigration attorneys and believe their credibility. The DHS officials, they're putting this shit out there just to soften it up, make it look like they're doing stuff do the right way. Don't believe it. This is a media campaign to soften the American public, okay? Because the midterms are coming up, and they're seeing huge losses they're going to have in the midterms, and he doesn't want to be impeached, okay? So he's tamping it down. Apparently, they're not going to as many courts as they used to be and ripping them out right after their hearings, their lawful hearings. And then there's also instructions that they should not be going in homes anymore without a proper warrant. Who told them that was illegal originally? Everybody? Just about everybody? But I don't believe that either. I believe they're going to be doing it. I think they're going to be doing it in small towns, mostly, where there's not a lot of national media, because the national media is lazy. I remember when I was writing for Reuters and I was up at Bagram Air Base at the beginning of the war, the Afghan war, and the national media was all down in Kabul all the time, living in their houses. They came up about once a week to do a story. And I was living on the base there because I could get on a plane and go anywhere. And what I realized is that I could beat the shit out of these guys. Why? Not because I had more resources. I had way less resources, but because I was willing to sleep on a fucking cot and get on a chopper and go anywhere on a moment's notice. These guys were down there partying like rock stars. And, eventually when I went to 60 Minutes, I became a part of that culture, And so, you're less inclined to hear what's going on if you're not closer to the center of gravity. So, this is what's going on. They're going to try to do it in smaller towns, I think, like they've been doing in I guess, either Vermont or Maine. And they're going to, because no national media is going to get on a plane and go up there. They're too lazy. They're going to do talking stuff like wah, 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 on CNN. They're not going to send a reporter up there to see what's actually going on. It's going to be all social media reported, new media, independent media like us, who are going to be going to those kinds of things and seeing it. People up there who have access. Okay, so, and then and just as proof of that, in Chicago, on the 22nd, April 22nd, 3 days ago, the reality on the ground was that immigration agents entered Cook County courthouses 7 times and made 3 arrests in the court. So they're still doing it. They're just a little bit more quiet about it. Okay? So don't believe a word they're fucking saying. Make them prove it. Make them come out and publicly say, we've changed our policy. Instead of this quiet behind the scenes, nothing under oath bullshit that you see from people like Pam Bondi and Howard Lutnick. I don't need to go under oath. I just tell you what I know. No, make them come out, media, make them come out and say, is there a change in policy from Stephen Miller's draconian measures where you're picking people up when they're going to lawful hearings and you're breaking down their doors illegally? Make them say, Mark Wayne, make them say they're not doing this shit anymore. Otherwise, we're not going to believe you because you fuckers lie. Okay. The lie train leads us right to the next thing, what I call the lie train. Everybody's on the Trump administration on the lie train now. Trump told a reporter from the New York Post that Vance was in the air preparing to touch down in Pakistan within hours. And then moments later, Vance's motorcade showed up at the West Wing of the White House. So this is always this, we're doing so much that you don't know about behind the scenes. You're liars. You're the lame stream media. You're, fake news. And he's telling people that Vance is about to touch down in Islamabad for peace meetings. And he shows up in his motorcade, literally moments later. They lie. Okay? Here's another one. Kash Patel, remember he sued the Atlantic magazine this week because he said it's a defamation lawsuit. It's really a libel lawsuit, saying that the reporter who covered him, suggesting that he was too drunk to do his job properly. They sued her for $250 million. They sued the magazine for $250 million, saying, hey, none of this stuff is true. It's all fake. And the reporter from, I believe it was NBC, was asking a question. I couldn't see him, but I seen reporting that it was a reporter from NBC, asked him a question, said, was he really locked out of his computer? The article said he was locked out of his computer one day, and he was so upset about it because he thought he'd been fired that he freaked out and called tech support and all this kind of stuff. And, because he's been on the hot seat and people are talking in the White House, allegedly, about getting rid of him. Trump said it's not true, and Caroline Leavitt, who lies for a living, said it wasn't true, but it's probably true. They're probably already thinking about who's going to replace Kash Patel. I mean, he's the next one to go, and he's a brown-skinned dude. He's going to go. I mean, the reason he might not go is because they might want to show that they just want to keep him around long enough so they can show that, that the media was lying about it. But I'm sure he's, after that stunt at the Olympics where he's slamming beers and drinking with the Olympic team, when he said he was going over there for security reasons, and it turns out he was just hanging out with the Olympic team, he lies. We know he lies. So, and he was, drinking at that event, probably smashed by the time the cameras left. So this reporter asked him, about this incident, saying, were you locked out of your systems? The reporter pressed him on it. Patel snapped back, I was never locked out of my systems, and told the reporter, you are lying. His own lawsuit from his own fucking lawyers in Northern Virginia said he was locked out of his system. Okay? So he's caught lying again. Thank God that he's not under oath. These guys never want to go under oath, ever. Right? Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, he kept saying he didn't even hardly know Epstein. There's pictures came out with him on the island hanging out with Epstein. And, Madeleine Dean, Congresswoman Dean, was asking him about this event, and Lutnick refused to answer questions about his friendship with him, and said he was going to, he was talking to the oversight committee. He doesn't need to talk to her because it's a different committee. And she called him out and said, no, man, this is a committee. You have to answer these questions. And he wouldn't. Why? Geez, that's weird, isn't it? These guys didn't have anything to do with Epstein. Their names, the one picture they missed, right, of Lutnick hanging out on Epstein Island. They missed it. They didn't know it was him. And it came out. Boom. Good stuff. Okay. This other thing with the Southern Poverty Law Center, where they sued the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is a civil rights organization that really tries to track hate groups and domestic terrorist groups. And they sued them because they said they were using funds to infiltrate organizations, like hate organizations, to pay dues and eat food and all that kind of stuff. And they said that's fraudulent, and that they were actually supporting these organizations by doing so. And so they've indicted the Southern Poverty Law Center for this. Anybody who knows anything about the Southern Poverty Law Center knows that they go after hate groups. That's what they do. And if they were using funds to pay dues so they could look like they were still a part of that organization, because that was probably something they were like, and by the way, I wonder how they know that. Did some people in those organizations say to the Department of Justice, hey, I got some info for you? Are they still friends with those guys? Is that what's happening? But anyways, my question is, you remember a couple weeks ago when CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Group that has these annual meetings all the time to try to elect conservatives, do you remember when they had to admit the other day when the new president of Hungary came in and he found that Viktor Orban, the previous dictator of his country, was sending money to CPAC and supporting it financially? Does that sound a bit like supporting, like for real supporting an organization? That it's not a hate organization. It's just a hateful organization that is trying to get rid of everybody's rights except the ones that they want to keep. So, and the reason this is important to me, think about the Russian stuff. Trump always talks about the Russian hoax. Viktor Orban was good friends with Vladimir Putin and good friends with the Russian government. So now does it seem that far unlikely that we would take help, advice, money from a foreign nation, to support conservative ideas so that Trump can get reelected? It's fucking proof of it. It's proof. So, people need to start tying those dots together. Okay? Then there's Kennedy today behind President Trump, standing behind him, trying to explain this whole drug thing, because Trump doesn't have the math right. Says, I'm going to, drop prescription prices I've already done it by 1,300%, blah, blah, blah. I keep saying that shit all the time. So Kennedy comes in and defends him and says, he says, they have his math wrong. He's getting it right, and he starts explaining it. And it's roughly something along the lines of, if the drug was $600 and was reduced by $10, then, that would be a $600 reduction. That would, sorry, somebody's got the math wrong here. They're talking about how if he went from like $600 down to $100, then that would be like a 600% reduction in the price of the drug. And it's not. It's not 100%. It's like 80, 90% of reduction. So he's not getting the math right. And people have started calling this Meth Math by Kennedy, which I think is great, because it's kind of like Meth Math, isn't it? Two more quick ones, okay? I want to try to get in here under 20 minutes. Barry Weiss. I know it's Friday night. You guys are going to go to the movies and stuff, and but this is cheaper than the movies. Barry Weiss, remember her, the lunatic who's the editor-in-chief of CBS News and pulled the piece off of 60 Minutes and said it wasn't reported well. And the reason she pulled it off, she said, the problem with mainstream media now is nobody trusts them anymore. In fact, it was nobody trusts Barry Weiss anymore because she's a conservative Zionist, and she doesn't have any broadcast experience to be calling 60 Minutes out, my former employer, on what good news reporting is. She had no idea. She wanted more time for the administration to sit down and have a conversation about their side of the El Salvadorian prison, where they sent Venezuelan immigrants to be sent back there. It's a terrible place, and people get killed there all the time. And they sent these people back there saying they're all gang members. It was all bullshit. So anyways, and I said at the time, she's not to be trusted. She's not doing this because she thinks the American public doesn't trust journalism. She's doing this because she's a sycophant of the Trump administration. And guess what? Tomorrow night, CBS has a table at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And guess who's sitting at the table with Barry Weiss? Yep, Stephen Miller and Pete Hegseth. There you go. Spelling it all out. Doing it in plain sight. Can you imagine? Here's a fucking suggestion for you. White House Correspondents' Dinner, you should kick out all the fucking politicians. Just have an award ceremony and dinner for the White House press corps. And let them invite their friends and family and other journalists. But the president and all of his staff, kick them out. They don't deserve to be there. And I'll tell you why. Because they now choose who gets to sit in on the White House press briefings and gets to go into the Oval Office for pool reporting and all that stuff. So if the White House press no longer has control of what they can do and how they can organize the press corps and the press meetings and the junkets and so forth, and the White House controls all that now, then just don't cooperate with them and don't allow them to come to your dinners. Period. It's not a good look anyways. Okay? We don't need to be friends with people in the White House, whether it's Trump, Obama, Biden. We're not friends with these people. Okay? We're supposed to be watchdogging them. I don't give a shit what their political party is. I'm calm, I promise. I promise I'm calm. All right? One more. Oh, and by the way, they had David Ellison, who's the head of the company that Barry Weiss works for, Skydance Paramount Skydance, the big longtime family donor of the Trump administration, had a Trump honorary meeting yesterday for him. Just had a big dinner and gathering for him. And Barry Weiss and all those fuckers were there. So 2 times in a week, they're sucking his, right? Because they're trying to get this Warner Brothers merger to go through. And they're trying to curry favors so they get better access to stuff. But Fox News already has great access to stuff. It doesn't help your reporting. It just means you put more lies on the air. Idiots. All right, last story. I'm at 22 minutes. You're going to kill me. Justice Department closes an inquiry into the Fed chairman. Remember Jerome Powell? The seemingly only honest guy who's in the office right now. They were investigating him for cost overruns on the Federal Reserve building being built, and it was horse shit. And he says, I'm not going to leave until the investigation's closed. And guess what? Guess what they did? They indicted him, and they're shutting down. They were investigating him, and they're shutting down the investigation into him now because he said, I'm not going to leave until you clear me. But here's what Jeanine Pirro said, the U.S. Attorney General, the Fox News host that used to be having her lying talk show on Fox News. Now she's the U.S. Attorney for D.C. She says, however, I will not hesitate to restart a criminal investigation should the facts warrant doing so. Fuck off, you liar, you drunk. Nobody gives a shit about what you say. Every time you have something going on, an indictment or anything like that, you get fucking killed in court because you're a moron. Jeanine, sue me. Here's the most important fact of the day. Poll came out recently, Fox News poll. Fox News, this is the Trump administration's favorite channel, says, does Trump have mental soundness to serve effectively? Does he have the mental soundness to serve effectively? Fox News poll, okay? 45% say yes, 55% say no. 55% of the nation that's polled by Fox News no longer think Trump has the mental acuity to do his job. Things are turning. Keep the fucking pressure on these cocksuckers. Like, follow, and share. If you like what I'm doing on my Substack, come on over and become a paid subscriber if you can. $8 a month or $80 a year. You save $16. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. It's small on YouTube because I don't really promote it much, but we're trying to build that as well. And I'm on Facebook under Jeff Newton, and I'm on From the Writer's Cabin as well on Facebook under that. And so do me a favor and support our work, and have a great Friday evening. April 24th, tomorrow's a new day, Saturday. Get out and do something fun. Take care, everybody. Night, misfits.